The arrival shortly of Councilmember Smith. First of all, on item 6, this item will be continued to a later date so the departments can consult with the city attorney on some legal issues and request the city attorney to provide a report on whether the city can require volume discount provisions to be included in vendor bid documents. So item 6 will be continued. And I would suggest item 4 and 7 without objection to be on consent. And so without objections, those 2 items will be consent. And we'll start with item 1.
Item 1 is a communication from the Mayor's Office relative to the appointment of Ms. Jamie Lee to the Quality and Productivity Commission.
Good afternoon, council members.
First of all, anything you'd like to say, and then we'll ask any questions if we have them.
No, I'm just happy to be here. Looking forward to, contributing however I can to the commission and participating as much as possible.
And I met with you, of course, and found that your qualifications, I think, are on target, and I think you'd make a great member. So I don't have any additional questions.
I just have a question for staff. Unless I don't have much of information at all, and we'd asked a while back that the council put together a policy of what should be minimum that we should get. All I have is the mayor's letter that said we should appoint him, and I don't have a bio, resume, or anything.
Okay, I'll get that to your office, sir.
But welcome. I mean, that's an internal thing. That's
Okay,
not something for you. It's just that we'd just like to at least pretend we know.
Well, if just to make it clearer, why don't you give 30 seconds of bio on yourself, the high points of your background.
Sure, sounds great. I was born in Los Angeles, was raised here, educated here in the Valley on the west side. I went to USC undergrad and then went on to USC Law School. I am in-house counsel and executive vice president.
More.
Yeah, exactly. And I know
Well,
council's a little bit split on the issue, but
on second thought, as a UCLA grad, I withdraw my
support. We bonded
support.
over the Lakers, so we have the Lakers at least to hold us all together. And I work for a commercial real estate investment, property management, development firm, Jameson Services. Currently the largest commercial landlord in Los Angeles City and perhaps the county. I do asset management there, a lot of budgeting issues, and all of the city required retrofit and any ways that we can make our business more efficient.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? If not, I will assume this passes without objection.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to the committee in advance of the council's approval. And do we know when this motion will move to council?
Most likely next week, sir.
Great. Thank you. Item number 2.
Item number 2 is an item that was continued from November 17, 2009. It's a Quality and Productivity Commission reports relative to the Quality and Productivity Commission Plan of Work for 2009 through 2011.
First of all, council members, before we begin, as a former editor of the UCLA Daily Bruin, we're still happy to have Jamie Lee on our commission.
Very good.
And the second thing I want to say is we're not here to ask for any money.
Well, maybe you should, but that's another.
I've given Eric an agenda of the items we'd like to chat about. And the first item is to respond to some of the questions and points you made in our last meeting together. Councilmember Koretz, you would, and this is a direct quote, you would like to see us identify solutions to problems more efficiently and see how they're followed up with departments of council motions. Of course, you are preaching to the converted. B, the challenge we have, and we'll chat about that a little bit today, I'm sure, is what are the resources necessary to do that, and to what degree can you do that when you lack resources? So that's an imprecise answer, but I think it sets the tone for our discussion. Councilmember Parks, you asked about what support we're getting from the CAO's office. I believe you received a letter from Ed Rose in the CAO's office that basically said they will notice our meetings, provide a meeting room, and provide a transcription of our meetings, and that's the extent of their support. There will be no staff support whatsoever. Councilmember Smith asked about the efficiency award, and his memory is good. There's something called the Productivity Incentive Revolving Fund, which is the Perf fund, and that's the item to which he's referring to. Pardon me. Up until last year, there's about $315,000 on the fund, and Councilmember Smith's suggestion was that when we give out that fund, that we keep 10% of it for the commission's work. Two things: that $315,000 has been reduced to about $118,000 because the mayor's budget took $200,000 of it last year. About 6 months ago, I received an email from one of the staff members in the CAO's office that says that $118,000, forgive my voice, by the way, that $118,000 is the commission's to work with under the statute. I sent an email to Ed Rose again to confirm that, and he got back to me and told me in an email, again, you have a copy of it, which I have extra copies if you don't, dated March 5th, in which the fact that given the current financial condition, that $118,000 is indeed not available to the commission unless the mayor and the city council specifically authorize it to be available. So that's where that fund is. Councilmember Park said, well, why don't we take the $50 that the commission is entitled to, each member of the commission, pardon me, is entitled to under its charter for attending each meeting, and use that for our offices. That same March 5th email from Ed Rose basically says, the reinstatement and subsequent transfer of the $50 commissioner stipend is not recommended due to taxable income implications and the potential complex accounting process this would entail, which means no. So I'm happy to respond or talk about any of these specific things before proceeding.
On that last one, it's a tax issue for the member of the commission, but if the money is being spent and it was done in a pool and not to the individual, but used as general fund money.
Correct.
Is that what, has he gotten that for? Or?
In the commission's charter, it clearly states that every commission member shall receive $50 for attending each commission meeting. So 15 commissioners times $50, 10 or 11 meetings a year. And we had been receiving those up until about 18 months ago. The mayor then asked all of those who he nominated to voluntarily give up their stipends, which we did. I am a mayoral nomination, which we did. I went to the commission and said, given the condition of the city, this was 18 months ago, I recommend that all of us voluntarily give up that stipend, which we did, and so none of us have taken it for the last 18 months.
And they've said it's too complicated, in essence, to get it back,
right.
Although
I think
doesn't sound that complicated to me. It sounds like it's just a way to keep the money in the city coffers.
The CAO's office taketh away but does not give it back sometimes. The second item on the agenda, the status of the Perf fund, I think I've explained. Basically, it is earmarked for the commission's use. There is about $118,000 in it, but we were told by the CAO's office that at this point it would take a council motion and then signed by the mayor to access that funds.
But that's on all funds.
It's a very old fund.
No, I mean, that's on all funds. There are no funds we have that you can just access. All of them require some action of the council.
Right. Oh, I see. Thank you.
So the issue is, what I hope he was saying to you, that if you had some project that you could get a motion done that says, in this fund, there's $118,000 for specific use, and the commission would like to use it in this fashion. That's what I hope that he was saying.
You've cleverly jumped ahead 2 items on my agenda, Councilmember. Absolutely right. Okay. Yes, that's what we will get to, and exactly what we'd like to chat about a little bit. And it's really number 3 on this agenda, which is the concept of bringing replicable practices to the AGE's office, to the AGE, and then to the council. You recall, I think it was your suggestion, council member, that part of our responsibility, and I gave this speech about the city doesn't lack for ideas, it lacks for a means of researching them, analyzing them, making decisions about which are best for the city, and then implementing them. And you suggested, why doesn't the commission come back to us, meaning AGE, with some specific ideas? And you'll see that's built into a document I'm going to give you because we concur.
Okay.
The other thing I want to go into very quickly is just to inform you that Brian Curry, the Mayor's Council, asked to meet with me about 2 weeks ago. We met, we talked about the commission. He expressed the opinion that some of the mayor's capabilities in areas of public-private partnerships and things of that nature could, and he said should, be brought to bear for the benefit of the commission. I told him we had been previously informed that we couldn't do that sort of thing because of potential conflict of interest, and he said that that matter can be addressed in a way that stays within the laws and regulations. So I'm continuing those discussions with Mr. Curry in the mayor's office and some of the other people in the mayor's office.
And I think that's good and that's the right direction, because my understanding was that the mayor values this entity and would like to see it be able to be part of the solution to this problem. So that could be a possibility. I know the mayor also has a fellowship program with UCLA where they have some fellows that are paid something like $80,000 a year to do various work in the mayor's office, and it could also be a possibility that one of those fellows could be put to work working for this commission as well.
That was one of the specifics that Mr. Curry and I discussed, and he's setting up a subsequent meeting with the people in the mayor's office who are involved in that. And
that would be great.
as soon as that happens, I will obviously bring you up to speed. Could I ask you to hand this to the council members for me? Thank you. You may recall that a little over a year ago, I came to you and shared with you the 2-year strategic plan for 2009-2011 of the commission. Subsequent to that, of course, because staff resources are no longer available to us, we've been having some discussions regarding how can we continue forward, given no staff support, in a way that's practical. This, therefore, is a revision and a reduction of that plan, and it's more tactical than strategic because of the necessity to be tactical rather than strategic. All of us know around this table that we don't lack for good ideas. We lack for the resources to implement them. So what we've tried to do, and I'd like to go through this in a bit of detail, what we'd like to do, obviously, is implement these, consider and implement these, plus any input you may have, as a very practical approach to dealing in the current fiscal environment in which we're dealing. So very quickly, there are a couple of near-term, meaning the next year, activities. One is to look at the audits that the City Controller's Office is distributing and meet with the general managers. And I think it's important to make it clear, not with the goal of being a star chamber, being critical of things that are not implemented, but just having a discussion with the general managers. Is there anything we can do to help these become implemented? Can we be a force for bringing together other departments where something might be replicable? Or can we be a force for bringing in experts or organizations from outside the city? Since we're a commission of 15 people from outside the city who are volunteers, most of us business people, we think that's something that we can bring to that discussion. So that's the review and highlight city audits aspect. Shall I go through the whole thing, council member, or do you want to stop and each one?
I think you could do it briefly, though.
Okay. The second one is exactly to your point, which is to begin to gather and filter and bring to you some specific ideas that we believe are worthy. And one of the ways we had planned to do that is to work with outside organizations. For example, VICA submitted a list of 50 recommendations to the city, some of which have been implemented, some of which have not. Work with a VICA or other organizations to hone those down to those that A, are most practical, B, most beneficial, and see where some of their research capabilities can be utilized, and come to this council committee with some specific ideas that you can then potentially take to council for motion, so that we're moving forward basically on what you recommended. The third and final is our annual Quality and Productivity Awards. We have been giving those awards for the last 21 years uninterruptedly. You may know my friend David Horowitz, who's a consumer reporter. On 3 of our years, I've asked David to be our master of ceremonies, and the first year he said, well, these are the Academy Awards for city employees, which I thought was a great line, and I have stolen on many an occasion. We want to continue to do that, but we have to seriously restructure how we do it. A highlight of them was where commission members would go and take site visits and have demonstrations by the nominated departments on their projects and programs. We're going to have to cut that out, and I've given you just a paragraph on how we plan to utilize that. 3 years ago, the expenditure on the part of the city for putting on these awards was $18,000, the bulk of which was for a luncheon for all of the award winners. Last year, we held it in the Tom Bradley Room, and it was under $8,000, mostly for food for the employees who were honored. And this year, our plan is to do it at no cost and just somehow do it in city council chambers, possibly before there's a city council meeting. So we basically think we can put this on for no cost. We've had some donations of certificates and things of that nature where we don't have to come to the city for any money. The final items on there, and I won't take the time to go through them unless you'd like to, are some of the outreach that we think we can and should be doing in order to spread the message of what we're doing and what the city is doing in the quality and productivity area without spending dollars and using the capabilities of the commission members.
Now, how's the commission working with the mayor's unit on productivity? Are you working closely together? Are you engaged?
We are not working as closely together as we should. All right. I have sought to set up a meeting on 3 occasions with some of the people in the mayor's office. Haven't been able to achieve that yet, but we'll be doing so.
Okay, and has the commission reached out to the controller's office to get involved with the waste and fraud and abuse unit? And
yes.
Has that happened yet?
It has begun, yes. We invited the city controller to come to our last commission meeting, which she did. We talked about some of these ideas that we have, the first one here, and some of the others, and she expressed a willingness and a desire to work with us and to utilize her capabilities and our capabilities in tandem.
Okay, and is there a way that the commission and this committee can work more closely together and more effectively?
If I had an idea, I would definitely bring it forth. I don't. And one hates to be bereft of ideas.
Certainly, your commission and this committee have the same mandate, and
Absolutely.
So we're trying to find whatever ways we can to improve efficiencies and save money. And so,
what I might suggest as a process is that some of the staff people who work on behalf of your committee meet with a couple of the members of the commission to talk about that in some specificity rather than this more formal environment, just to let's see if we can generate ideas where we can work together for mutual benefit. I'd be all in favor of that.
I think we could easily do that, so we will. Councilmember Parks?
I was just wondering on that last idea, whether it would be reasonable if this committee takes up a certain number of audits, or audits are coming to us, whether your commission could play a role in actually determining whether things are actually been done or institutionalized to where they're operating, because what the shortfall of the audits has always been the delayed process of getting to them, and generally you're implementing 2-year-old ideas, and then years later you determine that although there's a lot of proclamations about what should be done, later you find out maybe didn't quite get done.
There are two ways to go about that. One is with a carrot, the other is with a stick. The city controller's office tends to use the stick approach. That's their responsibility. We've been trying to use the carrot approach through our awards and other things. According to the city controller, and I know you all know this, there's a process they have, and forgive me if I don't know the dates. Once an audit is issued, the department has 90 days to get back and say, here's how we're going to address this, and then another time frame to do so. According to her, those deadlines are rarely met, number one. And number two, whether they are met or not, there tends to be a bit of, I'm not sure if she used the phrase, but I'll use it, a silo effect. We run our kingdom. We're doing a good job running our kingdom, and thank you very much. Now, that's an overstatement and an oversimplification, but it's a fair synopsis of her point of view. So I think the answer in a word is yes, but I think that has to come from the council.
One other thing I'd ask you to look at, and having gone to many of those productivity luncheons and such, if you go to them enough, you realize that there's a recycling of these awards. And in fact, you begin to question, if the award you gave 3 years ago was so good, why are we honoring a new group of people for doing the same thing? So sometimes it's just a repetitiveness. Somebody created a function, and then every 3 years, the people that are there get an award. And to where we're actually tying into what the original intent of the commission was, is to search out and find productive activity and reward people. It almost seems like the rewarded people are submitting what they'd like to get the award.
Number one, that's absolutely true. There are two departments I could name who each send in 20, 25 applications each year, whereas most departments send in 2, 3, or 4. Number two, one of the things that our staff did for us when we had staff to do that was to look at the awards applications and say, is this the rewriting, the reworking of a previous award? And if so, we shouldn't honor it. And there have been more than a few occasions where staff came to us and said, yeah, they've taken the same thing and sort of revised it and submitted it. So we've put that aside. Number three, there's probably something in all of us that likes to get as many plaques on the wall as we could get. It's human nature.
Having been there, you see and you kind of reflect that I think we've honored that function on a prior occasion. And I think one of the shortfalls is if you, not that they're not deserving, but if you ask people to tell you who should get an award, they don't mind writing those up. But it's one of those things I thought that the award mechanism was more from the commission identifying the recipient, as opposed to the recipient saying, it's my turn.
You're accurate in that the various departments submit as many nominations as they choose. We review them, winnow that down to a smaller number, then we've taken site visits throughout the city, and then we come in a meeting, all-day meeting, discuss and vote. We've changed that. Partially that's budget-driven. You will see and hear that one of the things we're doing is going to you, Mr. or Ms. Department Manager, and saying, or General Manager, you can only submit up to 3 awards. Give us your best shot, as it were. So hopefully that will address that issue.
Now, the commission doesn't currently send periodic reports on your activities to this committee, right?
Correct.
What would you think of that idea, just so we're more on top of what you're doing? Can you do that without staff, or can you do it once you've established a source for some staffing?
Two things. One, the president of the commission is fairly proficient with a computer, so I'm sure he'd be very happy to do that, and send them. I'm happy to send them as frequently as you'd like. But I would suggest that maybe even more beneficial would be the thought of having the committee staff and our commission members, or a few of them, meet so that we are not separated by pieces of paper that here's a formal report, but you're getting input on an ongoing basis of here's what we're talking about together. If you prefer or wish written reports episodically, more than happy to do that.
Well, I think the ideal would probably be both. So if you think that could be done, that would be one of the things I think we would request as
One of the
the
specific,
outcome of this meeting.
I'm sorry, one of the specific things that might be beneficial is to invite one of the staff members of the committee to come to all of our commission meetings and take part in our deliberations. I think that would be very helpful.
I think we will try our best to do that, at least on an intermittent basis. I think that
In
would be
the past-
helpful.
I'm sorry. In the past, of course, a staff member from the CAO's office has always come to our commission meetings. That's no longer the case. So there is no city employee in our commission meetings as we sit here now. And I think it's to the city's benefit to have someone representing the city in those discussions, contribute, respond, et cetera.
Well, I think that's a good idea, and we'll at least make the attempt to have someone from the staff of this committee attend some or all of those meetings. And hopefully you'll have some city representation if we're able, again, to find a way through, preferably through the mayor's office, to provide you with some staffing. Any other comments? If not, I'd suggest we note and file the report. We request the commission to send to the committee an annual list of the quality and productivity award winners and what their awards were won for. I think that would be helpful. And request the commission to send periodic reports to the committee and to attempt to have occasional meetings as well with some of the committee members.
Thank
So
you very much.
thank you for your presentation. Item number 3.
Item number 3 is the City Controller Report relative to the fiscal year 2008-2009 audited financial statements.
Good afternoon. I'm Bill Lamb from the Controller. Under the charter, the council is responsible for the annual audit contract, and the auditor works for the council. The Controller is responsible for preparing the city's financial statements, which involve information from all city departments. Just a comment, in the report, we have a copy of the GFOA Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting from 2008. That was the 14th consecutive year that the city has received that certificate, and we are submitting the 2009 CAFR for the 15th year. The audit comment itself, the auditor's opinion page, expresses what the city's responsibilities are, which are to prepare the financial statements, and the auditor's responsibility, which is to audit those statements. In this case, the city has earned what the auditor, or what is referred to as a clean opinion, in that during the course of the audit, the financial information is fairly presented in all material aspects. On the second page of the auditor's report is the date that they completed field work. This year, they did what they called dual dating report. The first date was the date they completed field work. The second date is a date referencing Note 5F, which deals with all of the information that is going around with the city with respect to its financial condition, including the negative credit watch by Moody's Investor Service. It was felt that that was significant enough that that required a dual-dated opinion. One of the things that we will be discussing with the auditor this year, and frankly we've started, is the ability of the city to continue as a going concern, and the impact of all of the activity that is swirling around the city at this point with respect to financial information, with respect to the budget, and going into next year. Is there a cause for a going concern opinion? Is there circumstances such that the city would not be able to issue debt? Are there other circumstances? With me is Brainerd Simpson, who is the managing partner for Simpson & Simpson, which is the firm that is responsible for the city's audit. Let Mr. Simpson make whatever comments that he wants with respect to the city.
And the issue of the city being an ongoing concern, what was the response to that question?
For 2009, it was not an issue. It is something that for the 2010 financial statements audit that the auditors will have to look at. The standard is basically a year, 15 months after the close of the city's fiscal year. Is there substantial concern about the city or about an entity's ability to continue? So it was not an issue for the 2009. It may not be an issue for 2010, but it is an issue that our auditors will have to look at.
Okay. And your
Good afternoon. I think Bill has pointed out the scope of our work very diligently and clearly. Our responsibilities as your auditor is to issue an opinion on your comprehensive financial statements based upon our audit work to determine whether they are in compliance with generally accepted auditing standards and governmental auditing standards. And as Bill indicated, we issued an unqualified opinion indicating that these statements were fairly presented in all material respects. One of the primary issues we had to deal with during the year was the issue of a going concern, as explained in Note 5 to your financial statements. We looked at all of the efforts that the city was making to deal with its budget deficit in the general fund at that time and felt that the efforts that had been proposed gave us comfort that for the next 12 to 15 months that the city would be able to pay its obligations timely when they become due. As Bill indicated, this year we will be looking at that again based upon the issues that the city are confronted with respect to the significant deficit and have to make a determination for 2010 fiscal year as to whether the city appears to be able to meet its obligations on a timely basis, and we will be looking at that. Other than that, the audit went well. We did not have any disagreements with management. The communications between our audit staff and management staff was very well, and the issues that did come up during the audit, we were able to resolve them to each other's satisfaction. With that, if there are any questions you have with respect to our work or the financial statements, I have my staff here that worked with me on the audit. I have Grace Ewing. She was our field partner on the audit. Grace, would you acknowledge? And we also have our audit manager here with us, Frank Liu. And if you have any questions, I'm sure that we will be able to respond to them.
Yeah, just for the public, why does the city need to have an audited statement to begin with? Why does the city do that?
Well, partly it's required by the charter, but it reflects, it's the only time we really have an external third party look at the city's financial statements. We need it to be able to sell bonds. We need it to be able to show the community that we have financial information that has been subject to rigorous third-party review. And I have to say that our financial statements are extremely complex. They involve all city departments. Under current audit standards, we have to prepare full accrual statements, we have to prepare modified accrual statements, and we have to prepare cash basis statements because that's the basis of the budget. We also have debt, outstanding debt. We also include information on the city's 3 pension systems, which have assets at this point of about $25 billion. We are also information on the treasurer, information on assets in the treasury, information on city liabilities, very complex in terms of what the city does. And frankly, the city is a very diverse operation. We range from currency swaps, foreign currency transactions, to natural gas hedges, to variable rate debt, to interest rate swaps. We have, at sometimes people do not understand just how complex we are as an entity, and all of the different types of activity that we engage in. This year, there was a new standard that came out dealing with pollution remediation, and so we had to include information on that for the first time. Next year, there's going to be additional standards with relation to how we disclose fund balance, and we're going to have to change that. GASB, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, which issues standards for government, started about 15 years ago, and we're up to GASB, I think GASB statement number 57. And it just reflects the complex nature of accounting, the complex nature of governmental accounting, and the fact that in order to pull this together, we have to comply. Now, that's one reason. The other reason is that our financial statements are the first part of the federally mandated single audit. So last year we expended $393 million in federal funds. The Congress has mandated that in order to receive federal funds, we have to have a single audit. And when they created the Single Audit Act, they made a determination that the first step is the city's financial statements, the idea being that if we maintain our finances in good stead, chances are we're going to maintain the federal funds in good stead. If we don't maintain ours, then chances are we're not going to maintain the feds. So we have to comply with federal standards as well as generally accepted audit standards.
Now, what do you anticipate in terms of the upcoming fiscal year on the issue of the city continuing as a going concern?
I tell people when I'm asked how I'm doing today that I've had better years. And I imagine you have also. I think it's going to depend upon...
And that's saying a lot considering I was in the legislature for 6 years and watching their problems.
Yes, but I wasn't up there, so I was just here. But I think it's going to depend upon what happens over the next 6 months. I fully expect that we're going to be in a state of turmoil probably in the first half, up through the first half of next fiscal year. We're still working through what is the impact of people leaving, what is the impact of ERIP, are we going to have additional layoffs? One of the issues that we have had this year is that the financial statements were delayed because of department responses. The single audit, we had problems with departmental responses. I'm also overseeing the accounting side of the new financial system. We've had problems with departmental responses. ERIP is taking a toll. Layoffs are taking a toll. I don't think that we are going to have stability until sometime in the first half of the next year.
Have we looked at the impacts that we may have with some of our renegade departments, as I would categorize them, that are looking after only their own fiscal health but not the city's, such as DWP withholding a $73 million transfer and Lacers being unwilling to lengthen the period of smoothing to the advantage of the city?
We do work with them. They are both issues. Lacers, pension, and DWP retirement system, we need their actuarial reports so we can determine and include in the city's financial statements what their liabilities are, what their assets are. We also need their audited financial statements. With respect to water and power, again, we work with them. We need their financial statements. And so it's a real, I don't want to say, I guess, mishmash of getting information from departments and understanding the nuances of departmental operations. Again, one of the things that I am hoping for under the new financial system is that a lot of the routine stuff that we do now will be done by the system, but we will have the time to do more analysis of what's going on with things like the retirement systems, with things like water and power. This year, we got the water and power financial statements in November, and I started calling DWP in December to find out when we were going to get the power revenue transfer. And that's when they started raising some questions about what was going to be happening, and eventually the controller's letter saying that we may not get the 73 million. But I would like to know in more detail what's going on up there, and I'm hoping as we get the new financial system that we will be able to do more analysis of circumstances.
Any other questions? Okay, well, I guess we will just note and file that report. Thank you for your presentation. Let's see, item number 5.
Item number 5 is an item that was continued from October 20, 2009. It's a City Controller report relative to the payments to Express Environmental Corporation for wastewater pumping and disposal.
Do we have representatives from Controller's Office and General Services and Street Services to discuss this?
Brian Young with the City Controller's Office.
Joe Cruz with Bureau of Street Services.
And I'm John Frigoda with Department of General Services.
And I wonder if you could let us know where we stand with the new contractor, first of all, in terms of the services that were provided by Express Environmental Corporation.
Well, speaking on behalf of Street Services, the contract with Express Oil was terminated, and we're currently working with Clean Harbors Environmental Services. That contract is in place, and everything is working fine. We have taken the recommendations within the report and implemented a significant number of changes within our Bureau, both operationally and administratively. And we don't foresee that there will be the type of issues that are raised in the report continuing moving forward.
Now, I know there were questions about how the previous contract was structured, and I recall being estimated that the contract itself might have cost the city as much as $6 million. Did we correct those flaws in that contract to save those funds in the current go-round?
The existing contract with Clean Harbors was a bid contract. We're actually utilizing a Bureau of Sanitation contract. So at the time that contract was let, it was the most competitive structure that was forwarded. So I believe that we are getting the most bang for our buck, if you will, with that particular contract.
And what's the status of trying to recover the money that was overbilled by the previous contractor?
We were in discussions with our city attorney to recoup the $1 million reported in the report by the controller. We've had a recent change due to the ERIP. We have a new city attorney on the for Public Works, and I don't know that he's been completely apprised of the entire situation, but we are making some progress there.
Well, there's a fair amount of money involved, so I would hope that we would get them focused on it and make sure we go after those funds pretty aggressively.
Absolutely.
And what's the distinction between hazardous waste and wastewater for the purposes of the contract?
I'm going to have to defer to our operations staff here.
And are they billed at different rates or the same rate?
Well, yes, hazardous waste is exactly what it is, hazardous, and it's handled differently. Where wastewater or potable water or water that we get from our clarifiers is treated differently and non-hazardous, so it goes to a different site.
So do we have a proper way to determine whether the services are being assessed at the right rate for the right service?
Yes, we do. When it is hazardous waste, we inspect the location and we find it as a oil spill type or some type of spill that requires a professional help, which Clean Harbors brings, and it's handled differently. They come up with the suits and they bring out the barrels and they have to clean it up differently. When it's our clarifiers from where we clean out our truck wash area, it's handled differently and it's not considered hazardous, so we have not as needed when we require the cleaning, and they come out differently. It's not handled the same. It's billed differently.
Okay, and I know, and I'm not sure if the question's to you or not. Basically, we got behind, and the previous contractor wasn't able to sort of pull the wool over our eyes in terms of what they were collecting because we didn't have enough oversight. Do we have that now in the process?
Yes, we did. As Joe mentioned earlier, we have restructured a lot of our policies to where we have the supervisor checking the truck when it comes in. On some of the sites where we do our sump removal out by Loretta tar pits, they're actually with the truck at every site where they pick up the substance that comes out of the sump pumps there. We also have a very good tracking for the paperwork that goes from our supervisors through the office to where it goes to the payroll section to when they can match the contracts when the bills come with the contractor.
Very good. Any other questions? I guess we will note and file that report. Thank you for your presentations. Let's see, number 6 is forwarded, number 7 is on consent, so I believe we are done with the agenda. And if there's no speakers from the public, we will be adjourned.
Thank you, sir.